This week, the video is going to look back at last week's video. But don't worry if you didn't see last week's, because I'm going to explain everything. Now, first of all, I must ask you a bit of a favour, because YouTube tell me that less than 20% of people who watch this video are actually subscribed to the channel. So if that's you, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit like while you're down there. You're very welcome. So in last week's videos, I did something that I had never done before. At least I think it's something that I'd never done before. I mean, I can barely remember what I have for breakfast most days, but as far as I'm aware, I haven't done this before, and that was to run on 2 consecutive days. So on the Saturday, I went out, I ran a 10K, and the following day, slightly less than 24 hours later, in fact, I went out and did an 8K, just under 8K in actual fact, and I was posing the question towards the end of the video, asking, I wonder what effect that will have on my body. What will I actually think of having done that for the first time? Is it a big howling mistake or something else? Now, I am going to report this week on what I thought, and it did actually have an effect, but it might not quite be the effect that you're expecting. Did it actually leave me needing to use a walking frame for 2 days? Did it leave me as stiff as a board and not in a particularly good way? No, actually none of those things. To be honest, I barely noticed actually. If anything, I actually felt better, which is weird. Now, if you watch other videos, you all know that what I did was I made sure that I didn't go out and go kind of nuts with the running. They were both very slow and steady runs, and that was a deliberate thing. In fact, in the second run, I did something that I just never normally do, and that was to kind of really slow down in parts of the run and actually stop on occasion. So there were some really steep slopes on that run, if you remember, and I kind of stopped and walked up those slopes, whereas normally on a run, I would run up those. It's good to get the heart pumping at times, but I deliberately wanted to keep both of those runs sort of slow and steady. And when I got halfway to the halfway point, I actually stopped for, I didn't time it, half a minute max, to have a bit of refreshment. My wife was with me. She was on a mountain bike and just stopped, had a little bit of a quick chat, bit of refreshment, and off we went again. That's not something generally that I've done. And that's one of the first things that I thought that I actually take away from that whole experience, which is when I'm out running, I shouldn't be so kind of fixated on this not stopping. I shouldn't be worrying about throwing myself in front of moving traffic because I don't want to stop when I cross the road. I should be, if I'm going to stop, I can kind of hop down on the spot or whatever. You see people doing that, don't you? And I've been thinking, why is this? Why have I kind of been fixated on these things? And I think it goes back actually to Couch to 5K, because when you do Couch to 5K, they say to you, for example, that you should have a complete day's rest between going out for a run. So say you go on a Monday, you shouldn't go out on Tuesday, you should leave it until Wednesday. So I used to do Tuesday, Thursday, and then one of the days at the weekend, and those were my runs, my 3 runs in the Couch to 5K week. But then when I had an interview with Ben, do you remember, on the channel just before Christmas, and he was saying, oh, when you go out and you do your 5 runs in a week, and I was thinking, hang on a minute, 5 runs in a week, there's 7 days in a week. See, look, 7 days in a week. See, I worked that out all by myself. There's 7 days in a week. So if you do 5 runs, surely that must mean you're going out more than once a week, aren't you? More than once a week, more than once. You're going on consecutive days. I can't even say it. So why is it that I insist to myself that I should be leaving that full complete day? And I think, in all honesty, it's down to Couch to 5K. I kind of got that in my head and sort of stuck with it, even after I'd finished it. But I've proved to myself now that you can go out on consecutive days and it really doesn't have any bad effect on you whatsoever, provided that you're not going out and you're really pushing and you're observing things like 80-20 and all those kind of little basic rules. You really, it's okay to go out a little bit more often, and I need to kind of chill out and sort of do that a bit more often, really. Now, I must just clarify that when I'm talking about these programs like Couch to 5K and the rest days, I'm not trying to say that the rest days are a bad thing. Quite the contrary, the rest days are a very, very good thing. So if you are a new runner, you're just starting on one of these things, do take note of those rest days. They're really important. But there obviously comes a point much later when you graduate and when you've got quite a few miles under your belt where you can start to kind of bend the rules a little bit. And as long as you're going out and you're doing some really kind of easy runs, and by easy runs I mean runs where you can hold a conversation as you're running, that's an easy run, then that's fine. You can start to go out a little bit more often. Just wanted to make that point. So here I am, I'm in the New Forest. The Trouble and Strife is on her mountain bike, and yeah, it's very nice, a nice day. It's sunny, it's cold, but the sun's out, which is very nice. I can't remember if I've ever run here before, in actual fact. I don't think I have. Been up here with the dogs loads of times when they were a bit younger. And I know that we came up here with our cameras not that long ago, and we were walking around taking photos. It was very pleasant, but I can't remember actually running here before. So we're going to give it a go, see what it's like. It's very nice up here, and just kind of, you know, easy run, see what happens. There we go, that was nice. It was quite hilly in places, so there was an element of walking in with the new me, the new I don't mind walking up a hill if I have to me. So they were really steep. So I did do a little bit of walking there. So I'm not going to put the times on the screen again. But yeah, you know, I'm not going to keep this thing where I'm just walking everywhere, because that kind of defeats the object. But anyway, there we are. Now, I must just tell you about this, a little story. I haven't told you stories for a while. There's been lockdown, I suppose, and, you know, COVID and all that kind of stuff. So my stories have been few and far between, because we've all been observing the rules, haven't we? Unless, of course, you're a civil servant or a politician. Anyway, between the first run and second run in this week's video, my wife and I went out for a walk, and we went up to the New Forest, another part of the New Forest, not this part, because my wife is a country girl and she grew up there and she was a little girl. She went to school there, and I often say to her, there's so few people around here that were you at school actually just with sheep and chickens and things, because I can't see how they would have filled a classroom otherwise. And she doesn't think that's very funny, but there we are. And anyway, we were out walking. Really lovely and peaceful. It was a nice day, a little bit dull maybe, but still very pleasant, you know, out and about, just, you know, sheep, a few other walkers here, but then you go for ages and not see anyone. The odd bird of prey swooping over. It was all very nice. And at one point, two cyclists actually, they stopped. And this cyclist said, "Oh, are you local?" And I said, well, "Oh, my wife's local, she grew up around here." And he said, "Well, just up the road there, in this field, about 500 yards up the road, I saw this ancient fort, in fact, two huge, gigantic ancient forts in the field. Do you know anything about them?" Well, I said, "No, I don't know anything about that." So I said, "Oh, perhaps her parents would know, because her mother grew up in the same tiny village, and then her mother before her. So, you know, one of them might know something about it." So, yeah, anyway, so, okay, thanks very much. Off we went. So we carry on our walk, as you do, and we went a different way. We didn't go right up to this field. We turned off, and we were going through down these little country lanes and little paths, and it was all very pleasant with the dogs. We were out with the dogs. And then we came back that way, and we came back past this field. And so I thought, oh, this is the field where he said these ancient forts are. So we looked through, and we could see in the mist these ancient forts, giant structures. They were huge structures. Except I don't know whether fort is the word that I would use to have described them. I think a more accurate description would have been hay, because they were actually bales of hay. They had all been kind of crisscrossed and piled, hundreds of bales of hay, all piled up. So they were huge. And in the kind of slight dullness of the day, they did look like forts, but they weren't. It was hay. So I wish I'd taken a picture. I wish I'd taken a picture that I could show you, because I could see, to be fair to him, it did look like forts, but it gave us a little chuckle. But me, being the person that I am, my brain just sort of goes off on one. And I did think to myself, would it be good if this person knew a historian, and he got in touch with his historian friend, and he said, "You must come down. I've been Googling it. I can find no reference to these ancient forts in the New Forest. You must come down with your historical knowledge and come and have a look, because they're amazing. And wouldn't it be great if in the meantime, the farmer had taken the bales of hay down. Then they would become the amazing disappearing thoughts of the new forest. Perhaps he'd write a paper on it, perhaps a book, perhaps a TV miniseries. This is how conspiracy theories start. I wish I'd taken a photo of it because it did, you know, to be fair to the guy, it did look a bit like that, but we did have a chuckle. Anyway, I've got off on one there, on a side tangent. Yeah, it was a very nice run today, and not quite as far as I really wanted to go. I wanted to do sort of 8 to 10k, and today I did about 7. So, but that's okay, that's all right. It's getting out in the fresh air, that's the main thing, isn't it? So I'm just kind of looking about because I'm in a car park and I don't want to get run over. So anyway, let's head back to the car. And I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I will see you, of course, for another one next week. If you're new here, you're very welcome. Please hit the subscribe button because it really helps out the channel an awful lot. And hit the like button as well if you enjoyed it, because that is also does my ego an awful lot of good. So thanks so much for watching. See you for another update next week.